Bengals training camp is right around the corner. It's time to discuss Joe Burrow. I go one-on-one with Mike Hilton and much, much more right now on Enter the Jungle. Hi again, everyone, and welcome in to Enter the Jungle. He's Andrew Fox-Miller. I'm James Rapien. Thank you so much for joining us on Cincinnati Bengals Talk every single Tuesday at 8 Eastern or weekly on Bally Sports. We're part of the Big Play Network. A shout out to our sponsor, Garage Beer. And we are talking training camp today. Andrew, the season is right around the corner. Let's dive in to the number one storyline I think that we're going to be following throughout camp, throughout the season. And we might have mentioned him a time or two on this show already this offseason. Joe Burrow. It was the biggest offseason storyline. Joe Burrow's health. It's going to be the biggest storyline throughout training camp. I'm not sure there's much debate there.
No, not at all. Joe Burrow can come into a season completely healthy, and all we're doing is wondering if he's going to get through camp. He could be just the cleanest bill of health, coming off zero injury from a prior season, and we are just going to watch and hope that he gets through it. And that's not a knock on his health or fragility or anything like that. It's just we're rooting for him, but we're also things have happened. So here we go. Another one, James.
And we know that everything revolves around him. Everyone in that locker room knows it too. And that's no knock on Jake Browning. It's just, that's who Joe is. Everything revolves around him. So whatever you want to call him, the earth, the universe, you want to go and get into all the science behind it. I'm not going to do that.
The Burrowverse.
But I am going to say the Burrowverse. That makes a ton of sense. Is that, and I'm trying to prepare myself for this too. Because in all likelihood, what's going to happen in training camp is they're going to have him on a pitch count. And that doesn't mean a pitch count practice, each practice where he throws 20 throws and then that's it. But he's probably going to have some built-in rest days. He's probably going to have some days where he doesn't do as much as he would other days. And what I want to remind myself, remind all of our viewers, remind Bengals fans everywhere, is that that's okay. Because last year, July 27th, everyone's like, well, dang, like it just changed. Everything changed. You don't want to deal with that. And so however they can avoid that, I'm for it. And so giving him rest, giving him some extra rest, less reps, all of those things, I think it's something Joe is open to. And it's something the Bengals are, even if he wasn't open to it, might have to make him do because it's the key to the season. We saw it last year. And so finding a way to get him to September 8th as healthy as possible is the way to go.
Yeah, I'm glad you went there because that's another big part of it, right? Like, as much as we can sit here and say, Bengals better do this, they better do this in preseason, or they better do this with him in camp and pitch count and rest days. On the other side of that is Joe, right? Is it going to be a situation where they make decisions that will irritate him? He becomes disgruntled in that moment. It's finding that synergy, finding that compromise. And Joe, once again, Burrowverse, big part of that whole conversation. So I'm interested to see sort of the give and the take, again, the compromise and see how it all gels. At the end of the day, though, of course, everyone's happy. Strides are made. Chemistry is built. We hit a full camp, and we head in week one strong.
Yeah, that's it for me, honestly. And how much chemistry? I know he needs chemistry with Jermaine Burton and Charlie Jones and Andre Yosef, like those guys. Mike Gesicki.
His running backs.
This guy could throw to Jamar Chase in his sleep. Right.
Of course.
T. Higgins and Joe Burrow have had thousands of reps together now. It's not new. They've done it since 2020 when Jamar Chase wasn't playing football, by the way. Right? Like it's going to be just fine. So I think from that standpoint, from a rep standpoint, last year going into camp, he's like, I want every single rep. I'm healthy. I'm going to take every single one. Like he's feeling really good. And that was his mindset. But I think now, at least the way I view it, he's so experienced. We know he can be great. It's just a matter of being healthy enough to do it. And so that is going to dominate, I think, the training camp portion, the preseason portion. So I'll ask you now, this is going to be the first of probably 10 times we talk about it on this show over the next 8 weeks or so. Should he play in the preseason? Do you think he should play in the preseason? I do not. I wouldn't play him in the preseason. I don't think he'll get mad about it. In the past, he said he wants some preseason reps. I wouldn't do it. I would already tell him, you're not playing in the preseason. It doesn't matter how good you feel. It doesn't matter how many reps you want. You're not playing in the preseason. They have 2 joint practices. What say you, Andrew?
I was never one of those people that would be like, oh, pointing fingers. Well, you didn't play him in preseason. That's why this happened. I'll never be one of those people,
Yeah.
specifically with Burrow. With that said, it all
Oh,
comes down to what Burrow wants, right? I mean, and I'm not saying do whatever he wants, but
oh.
again, it goes back to how is the communication? How is the compromise? If Burrow's the type of person, and you just said it, you don't think he'd be angry. That's key to me. If he's like, listen, I trust that they're going to make the best decision here. Yeah, I'd like to play, but I don't feel like this is going to, mess with my momentum. I don't feel like I need this to be the player that I want to be in week 1 of the regular season. Fine. Don't play him then. I'm never gonna look at it and be ready to blame the fact that he didn't get out there for why he looks rusty or something like that in week 1. I don't think it makes as big of a difference if to Joe it's not what he needs. So there you go.
I would blame them and him if he did get hurt in the preseason. That's how I view it, because I do think the reps are valuable to a degree. Sure.
Sure.
And I think Joe wants to be out there. But you just say it out loud, even if it's a 1 in 10 chance or 1 in 20 chance or 1 in 100 chance.
Yep.
He misses time due to no. Nope, not doing it. You're sit your butt down, number 9. We'll see.
Yeah, if you're one of those people that was screaming about the Bengals, how they should have played him, give him, 1 series in the preseason game or more. If
Yeah.
you're that person and you're going to be that person this preseason, then you're exactly right, James. Then you need to, along with that, you need to be prepared to accept that injury was just part of it. That's just part of it. And then, yeah.
You know what was a bigger distraction than him not playing in the preseason last year? A bigger issue with them laying an egg in Cleveland week 1? I'm going to tell you the answer to that as we get into some big storylines, the storylines we're looking forward to in training camp. We will do that coming up next right here on Enter the Jungle. Welcome back to Enter the Jungle. I'm James Rapien. He is Andrew Fox Miller. Catch us every single Tuesday at 8 Eastern on Cincinnati Bengals Talk Weekly on Bally Sports. And we're getting into our big training camp storylines and storylines we're looking forward to the most, Andrew. And I'm going to start because it ties to what we were just talking about with Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow agreed to his extension. He signed it on the Saturday before playing the Browns on Sunday last year, but agreed to his contract extension week 1, Thursday night, 72 hours from week 1. And so my big storyline, the thing I'm going to monitor, is Ja'Marr Chase and a potential extension there. And by the way, I think that was a huge distraction. Whether the Bengals, whether Burrow, whether anyone wanted it to be or not, leading into that Cleveland game, it was, are they going to get an extension done? Oh, they got it done. When is it going to get finalized? Doesn't get finalized on Friday, gets finalized. And then on Saturday, he does his news conference after signing the richest deal in NFL history. And then boom, flies to Cleveland. It's hard to be that dialed in. Not that he wasn't focused. I'm not saying that, but the whole team, it's just a distraction. And so with Ja'Marr Chase, will an extension get done in training camp? Will they say, all right, let's revisit it after your 4th season like the Vikings did with Justin Jefferson? Or will Jamar's side and the Bengals side push and get something done? Ideally, they would get something done. I certainly don't want this going into week 1 and becoming a thing that could potentially be a distraction when the games matter.
That's fair. I don't know that I'm on pins and needles with Ja'Marr and his extension, but now you got me thinking about it a bit differently because I figure it's a matter of when. And I agree with you, though. It needs to be at the opportune time.
When might be next offseason, just to be clear.
Sure.
It might not, it might not be in camp.
I'm not going to be shocked about that. I've actually been sitting here going, we haven't heard much, and it might be next offseason. I don't feel the anxiety, the anticipation like I did with Burrow, and I should with Ja'Marr Chase. I just kind of know it's going to happen. Maybe because they did the Burrow deal. It's like, look, they're capable of this. Let's just go. But yeah, I agree with you. Timing would be key, and that's an interesting take. Okay, all right.
I think I agree with you on the Burrow. Like the anticipation was there, and the difference is there was no precedent for letting a quarterback go into that 4th season without an extension when they're a stud, right? When they're this star, and certainly on Burrow's level. And all these quarterbacks that have flashed in the first 3 years, they've gotten extensions. Meanwhile, receiver-wise, that hasn't been the case because of a Justin Jefferson who sets up the blueprint, sets the precedent of, oh, no, I'll wait out my 4th year and then sign an extension. So I do think that's a factor as well. Certainly something I'll be watching. Does Ja'Marr, is he full go throughout training camp? It's just interesting. I assume he will be, but it is interesting because contract talks could happen. I remember the days of Joe Mixon getting headaches, right? Things get weird in camp when negotiations are going on. It's just part of it. It's not just Joe. There's plenty of guys that have done it. It's just one of the more recent examples. Anyway, Andrew, what's a storyline that you're going to be paying close attention to?
Well, obviously, when we talk training camp, we talk position battles. Who's going to be the starter week one, and we've talked, James, about safety. Von Bell, Jordan Battle. We both were in agreement. There's a very, very good chance it's Von Bell week one. So not top of my list as far as what I'm monitoring, but one worth mentioning. And obviously, you go along with that is right tackle Amarius Mims, Trent Brown. What's going to happen from there? I don't even know how the Bengals view that, by the way. Like, is Trent Brown the assumed starter and it's Mims that's gonna earn it? Or is it, that's one to monitor. Again, not top of my list. I'm gonna say it again. I've said it before. Cornerback is top of my list. And it will continue to be probably for all of training camp. The most unknown group as far as positions on this team goes for me, Dax Hill versus DJ Turner, sure. But along with that, I mean, you look at like Josh Newton. Could he rise up above that? Is Cam Taylor-Britt the guy as cornerback one? I think he is. I like all of these guys. There's a lot of potential there. And I have faith that they're very capable of really delivering this season. But it's the most unknown. That's just a fact. And it's going to be weighing on me week after week this summer.
Yeah, it is. It is a huge unknown. And there's a lot of inexperience there. And it's part of why I got to chat and caught up with Mike Hilton for a one-on-one conversation. But I think it's a really good point because you look at the safety room and you feel really confident because you have the experience there. The pieces fit. If Jordan Battle somehow beat out Von Bell, it's like, oh, well, then he earned that. He earned that. He's going to be out there. You're confident in him. And at the same time, you look at corner. I think a lot of people like Dax and they like DJ Turner and they like Josh Newton. They like what DJ Ivy did last year, like all these things. But there's questions about all those guys, whether it's youth, health, all of these things. And even Cam Taylor-Britt, you need him to stay healthy now this year. He's dealt with some injuries in the past. When he's been out there, he's been awesome. No doubt about it. But if he's going to take that step to CB1 territory, where next year we're talking about a potential extension for him, right? I think how he plays this year is going to be a big factor there. So no, it's a huge storyline. The good news is these corners get to go up against Jamar Chase and T. Higgins every day. And even elite athletes like Andre Yosefash, great route runners, all these wide receivers that are certainly going to be monitoring. The other thing will be that I'm monitoring, and there's a bunch of stuff we'll talk about, but just how Jermaine Burton is able to develop as a receiver. So just another one that I'll throw out there. We're going to talk a ton about these storylines. Those are a few that we're monitoring, of course. But I mentioned Mike Hilton. I mentioned my conversation with him. You'll hear part of my conversation with him as I ask him about Joe Burrow in the backless suit. Did Mike Hilton make fun of him? Find out coming up next. Welcome back to Enter the Jungle. I'm James Rapien. He's Andrew Fox Miller. I caught up with Mike Hilton. This entire conversation will drop on Cincinnati Bengals Talk on YouTube later this week. It was a 30-minute conversation. Really good stuff from Mike Hilton. Here he is on Joe Burrow, the Paris week, and much, much more. Did you know that Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase were going to France for Fashion Week?
Yeah, I didn't know. I did see it on Instagram a few times though. And then once Twitter got a hold of it, I saw it all over there too.
He is in Joe at least wore something that I don't think a lot of people would wear, the backless suit. What was your reaction? I know he was on the Pardon My Take podcast. He said everyone's been making fun of him. Were you one that made fun of him, and what was your reaction?
I wouldn't say I made fun of him. It's kind of like that's Joe. He's comfortable in his own skin. You can just see from some of the outfits he wore during the season. He's definitely a guy that's just willing to take risks when it comes to fashion. And seeing him step out, do his model thing and wear the backless suit, I can't say I'm not surprised, but that's Joe.
Yeah, I think I agree. I wasn't necessarily surprised because it's Joe. At the same time, I've never seen a backless suit, so I was like, oh.
Neither have I.
Because when he was walking towards, like with Justin, I was like, oh, that's a nice suit. Like he looks good. And then
Yeah. And then
his back is just hanging.
Man, that's Joe for you though, man. He's a confident dude in his fashion.
As a defensive player, let's pretend you weren't on the Bengals for a second, which I promise this is the only time we'll do this interview. If you're going up against Joe and you see that in the summer, is that something you're bringing up in the fall?
Oh yeah. You definitely got to talk about it and see him across the field or something. I'm pretty sure he's gonna hear a lot of it during the year. So I think he knew what he was setting himself up for.
I think he likes that.
Oh yeah,
Is
Joe,
that fair?
he might seem like a real laid back dude, which he is, but I think he likes when people gravitate to him and just keep his name in their mouth. So that's just Joe.
We've certainly talked a lot about him on this channel, on the podcast, on probably every outlet that discusses the Bengals. They probably lead with Joe Burrow a lot of times, and obviously the wrist is a big part of that this offseason. It's been a huge discussion. Will continue to be going into training camp.
Mm-hmm.
When you saw him at the start of the offseason program and he's throwing, what was going through your mind leading up to that, and then seeing that he's throwing and it was a spiral and he still had his accuracy and all of those things? What was going through your mind during that?
Man, it was a beautiful sight to see. Being without Joe last year, it was definitely tough. Jake definitely stepped in and played the best he could. But some people are hard to replace, and Joe is just one of those guys. And just seeing him during OTAs, he looks confident in his throwing ability. He looks like he's starting to get his swag back and feeling like himself. So it's gonna be a big training camp for him. I'm sure he's gonna be a lot smarter when it comes to the way he take care of his body, and he knows the team needs him, and he's gonna do what he can to be healthy throughout the year. So we're excited to have him back.
Did you ever go through anything like Joe has from an injury standpoint? And I don't mean the specific injuries, but this offseason, multiple times he's talked about, and maybe I shouldn't necessarily practice through the pain when it's late July, or if he tweaks something or OTAs or last year, obviously with the cap, I think is what he was referring to, where he had the sleeve on it before the calf strain. Did you learn that, especially as a veteran now, where you're like, I don't need to be at my best on July 27th. It's about getting to September 8th against the Patriots.
Yeah, that's just that competitive side of our game. Guys want to be out there, whether it's OTAs, training camp. It's just that competitiveness inside of us wants us to be out there. But as you go throughout your career, you got to be smart with how you use your body, how you make sure your body is fresh as possible going into the season. And he's been hit with some significant injuries over his last couple of years, and sometimes it takes those type of injuries to kind of realize, like, okay, I need to be smart about how I go about my business, how I go about training for my body during the off season. And I know he's a guy, he takes his training serious, and I could just tell over these last couple of months, he's being a lot smarter, and he's going to be prepared for the year.
Really good stuff from Bengals cornerback Mike Hilton. That entire interview will drop right here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk this week, so stay tuned for that. Up next, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, the Olympics. That's next. Welcome back to Enter the Jungle. He's Andrew Fox Miller. I'm James Rapien. Let's get into this, because the idea of a Bengals player, just one, performing in the Olympics, doing anything in the Olympics is wild. And yet in 2028, the Olympics are in Los Angeles. Joe Burrow has made it clear multiple times now, Andrew, that he wants to participate in the 2028 Summer Olympics on the flag football team. He wants to win gold, and he wants to do it with Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, his former LSU teammates. What say you? What's your reaction when you see these quotes, or you see Joe express this kind of interest?
Listen, I mean, this could be an entire episode. I'm not going to lie. I have so many questions about the whole protocol with choosing flag. Is there a Grant Hill of the NFL that's going to be a board of directors that's going to be picking players, and how's that? We could get into all of that. Who should make the team? From where Burrow's sitting, I get it. He's a competitive guy. Wants to get on the world stage. Hey, here's a way to get on the world stage. Get to the Super Bowl again. Win us a ring here, Joe. That's what I'm saying. Do that. We got till 2028. for these Olympics. We'll figure that out. Should Joe be on the team? I think he's got a shot. He's pretty good. He's a pretty good quarterback. Now, having those three that James, you shared with me, picture of him, Jamar, someone photoshopped him, Jamar, Justin Jefferson with their gold medals. First of all, I don't know why they're wearing pads, but okay. Again, there's a lot to sort out with this whole flag football in the Olympics, but I'm fine with it. I'll leave it at that. I'm fine with it. We got bigger fish. We got time. We got time. Everybody's all excited about flag football, the world stage. The Super Bowl is the world champion for the National Football League. Let's do that.
I get it. I think a lot of people are going to agree with you.
Really?
And you know what I'm going to say?
Go on.
Hey, Joe, if you need another receiver in 2028,
oh, here we go.
It is no problem.
Yeah.
Because if there's one thing I know I can do,
Mm-hmm.
it's get open in flag football.
Right.
That's what I know. That's why Chad, the guy behind me, can't cover me. And it's why if you need some reliable hands, reliable slot receiver and flag, I got you. I would fit in between Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. Yeah, I could do that as the slot receiver. There is no doubt about it.
I'm not
My
photoshopping
friend.
you with the gold medal. Don't ask me to do it for this.
I'll tell you. And by the way, in 2028, man, in the summer, I'll be pushing old man status. All right, It won't matter. I'll still be open. So
Okay.
For Andrew Fox Miller, I'm James Rapien. You didn't know I was going to turn it into I want a gold medal too, but I do. I got to be honest. The competitor in me certainly wants to be ready for 2028. Maybe they'll have tryouts. Grant Hill of flag football. Call me.
Open
For Andrew
tryouts.
Fox Miller. I'm James Rapien. Hey, have you seen the movie Invincible?
That was my first thought, and I promise you, I'll be there to document your tryout process. I will be there.
Yep, that's right. We're going to get it done. So for Andrew, I'm James. As always, thank you so much for watching. Enter the jungle.